This research is an attempt to show results of introduction of some applications to the education process. This entails practical courses of language learning as well as theoretical ones. The programs used ensure development of such language skills as listening, reading, and writing. They help concentrate on the content as well as the form, improve grammar, build and expand vocabulary, and better pronunciation in an interactive way. For example, comparing the way people from different regions speak. Thus, what is meant here is a complex support and provision of the education process by means of different programs and applications. Besides acquisition of language skills, an upside of the use of apps is they make possible to introduce the culture of the country where the foreign language in question is spoken in an interactive, interesting and exciting way by using, for example, project method with support of ICT. Blended learning and flipped classroom, digital natives and digital immigrants, 21st century skills and ICT for language learning, gamification and game-based learning. These are the terms that modern language teachers are faced with more and more often nowadays. It has been more than 10 years since Mark Bransky's article on digital natives was published. It's been referred to ever since by teachers, professors, and other specialists to understand the changes in modern students' profile. To quote the author, our students today are all native speakers of the digital language of computers, video games, and the internet. There have been many opposite views on Mr. Bransky's ideas, but the definition given is still relevant and applicable to our present-day students. As to teachers, professors, and tutors, they remain digital immigrants in their students' eyes. We, being not able to step out of our comfort zone with traditional methods, invade their world, and in our attempt to speak the same digital language, we suffer a defeat. Which characteristics do we have to keep in mind when preparing exercises for students to use skills effectively and fulfill their potential? First of all, the need to get information in a quick and clear way. Tables, infographics, mind maps are better perceived in comparison to the text. Second, modern students are keen on multitasking. Third, rewards and encouragements keep them motivated. Finally, they get started more enthusiastically if they are to use the internet, web, or mobile apps. Noteworthy that in reaction to the altered students' profile, some adequate and fully functional solutions to involve students' technical skills were introduced. Nevertheless, not all the classes dispose of such complex systems to organize blended learning, and unfortunately the will of several teachers isn't enough to change the situation in the immediate future. Hence, we suggest one of possible solutions how to organize effectively home part of flipped classroom education by means of a few free apps and websites. Flashcards are one of classical methods to structure any amounts of information effectively in order to learn and revise it. No wonder flashcards got a new lease of life with the advent of smartphones. Traditionally, flashcards were used to learn standalone words, less commonly phrases, different constructions and collocations, and in the case of Asian languages, hieroglyphs. Nowadays, these are not the only way to use flashcards. Nowadays, there are a lot of apps that are based on the usage of the flashcards. We can see icons of some of them on this slide. Depending on the app, functionality may slightly differ. We prefer to use Quizlet as it includes all those types of exercises students need to do at home to master the new knowledge. We use the app in monolingual classes given that all students have internet access and smartphones or tablets. As our 3-year experience shows, this kind of app has certain advantages. Among them, we can cite management of folders, a feature available to students and teachers, management of courses, a feature available to teachers only, clean interface that enables to create a module quickly and then copy or export it, possibility to print flashcards in different formats, variety of exercises for students to learn new information, revise it, and check the progress, possibility to add images and audio files, and last but not least, spaced repetition system, realizing to a certain extent the Leitner system. In this method, flashcards are sorted into groups according to how well the learner knows each one in the Leitner's learning box. The learners try to recall the information written on a flashcard. If they succeed, they send the card to the next group. If they fail, they send it back to the first. We can see the way the method works on the slide. Each succeeding group has a longer period of time before the learner is required to visit the cards. Using this kind of apps at home, students are able to master grammar, vocabulary, and some extra linguistic information like history, geography, or economy. In the age of globalization, these skills are crucial to build socio-cultural knowledge about the country where the foreign language in question is spoken. There are several ways one can use the app to work with vocabulary. For example, foreign word as a term and its translation as a definition. It's a classical method to learn any type of vocabulary, that is abstract and concrete nouns, phrases, collocations, and set expressions. Foreign word image. Students establish consequential figurative connection between the word and its definition. Such flashcards can bring better results when we deal with visual learners. But there are some downsides, as it takes much time to create such a model and it's not always possible to capture the notion in an image. Foreign word, its definition. Usually applicable to intermediate or advanced learners. The main difficulty teachers face is to make definitions clear to the students so that they don't get confused with the words that they don't know. Despite certain complexity, this type of flashcards can be of great use, as it was in our case, when teaching theoretical courses like stylistics and theoretical grammar. Students get to know the terms in foreign language as well as the definitions, fixing in their memories the key information from the course. Finally, beginning of a fixed expression as a term and its ending as a definition. This type of flashcards appeared in response to the need to study proverbs and sayings in a more interactive way. Also, there is a relatively new type of flashcards that shows great results in teaching and learning words from one semantic field, that is toiletry, computer, body parts, and so on. Using this type, you can put several foreign words in one picture. As an option, you can add a translation or a definition. As a picture, you can use quite different things like mind maps, infographics, collages, screenshots, pages of catalogs, and so on. We can see the example on the slide. Phonetic commentaries added to the flashcards might enrich the experience of studying grammatical and lexical units. Depending on the class profile, phonetic support might be provided in various ways. Good diction, as well as natural accent, is a must. Means of phonetic support are listed on the slide. One can use built-in function to record the pronunciation for each set of words, or record audio any other way and send it to the students. This method seems to us the most productive when it comes to the content, as one can record all the words one after another, record them in pairs, or repeat some of them more than one time. One can record several variations of pronunciation with the help of native speakers from different regions. This will let students better their listening skills and get to know different accents. Or one can explain to students how to use pronunciation dictionaries available online, for example, Formra. The possible downside is that students have to be really motivated and conscious about learning pronunciation, as there is no immediate control over them. If a student makes a mistake in pronunciation and doesn't check if he or she is right, then he or she will memorize the wrong pronunciation. An undeniable advantage of such dictionaries is that one can find native speakers there. As soon as there was some payoff with studying vocabulary, we customized digital flashcards for studying grammatical units and mastering grammatical constructions. Some ways of use are listed on the slide. For example, one can use the app to learn grammatical forms referring to a grammatical category of tense, gender, or number. One can create a model to study, for example, past participle forms of irregular verbs in English, as opposed to the traditional system of learning all the conjugated forms on one card, one after another, as the persons go, that is, I go, you go, he, she, it goes, and so on. This model allows students to master all the forms on a standalone basis. This means students will need less time to remember the form they need. Another way to use digital flashcards to study grammar is to put grammatical form as a term and its translation as a definition. For example, estuve, yesterday I was or I went. As one can see from the example, it can be of great use to add some information that will give students extra knowledge about the form and thus help them to readily choose this very form among many others. The app can be useful to master grammatical constructions to automatization. Information on flashcards depends on a class profile. Predominantly, we use these pairs. First, students are to put in a preposition or to repeat the construction with the missing preposition. Second, students are to choose the right form of a verb to put in a construction. Another way to use flashcards to master grammar is to do mini-tests to systematize tenses. Flashcards can be monolingual as well as bilingual. On this slide, you can see how a Quizlet set looks like, and what you and your students can do with it. There could be different methods of use, but we've chosen the following. It's recommended but not obligatory that students have a look at the model, looking through the list of words, or using the flashcards mode in the application. If the flashcards are made based on the information from the textbook, text, or article from the lesson, students might highlight the words they are to study in the model in order to have quick access to the examples of use. First step, students match the words in pairs using the match mode. Despite the built-in timer, it's advisable to students to take their time first few trainings and say out loud all the pairs they make. It's usually recommended to use this mode 15 or 20 times if the model has 40 to 60 pairs. Next step is write or learn modes. These are the most productive modes as they take into account the spelling and have feature of spaced repetition, which means that a student will face more often the words he or she has difficulty to remember. Quizlet team insists that the app isn't made for giving students grades, but still a teacher can evaluate the progress students made. Teachers will receive statistics when working with their own models, not ready to use one. Trial and error method, as well as feedback from our students, led us come to following conclusions. Creating flashcards, one should remember that the ideal number of words in a module is about 40 to 60 words. Yet if all the words are new to the students, it's better to limit the number to 30 or 50 words. Follow the same method of use with all the modules. Remind students to look for a glossary they need in the app. Initially, students have to be motivated to use the app so that it falls into a habit. Recommend marking all the difficult words. Thank you for your attention.